everyone. A very good morning to you and welcome to one of the most scenic backdrops in motor racing. As we're here for round 3 of the Ferrari Challenge, and the qualifying session's about to get underway with the backdrop of the beautiful Styrian Mountains. This is the region we are in Austria. It is called Styria. It is truly, truly beautiful. And yeah, delighted to be here. Haven't been here for a couple of years or so. And there you can see the drop down from the final turn into the start-finish straight. So it's the third round of our Ferrari Challenge for this year. One of the shorter tracks on the circuit, and from one of the shorter tracks on the circuit we go to one of the longest. Well, the longest, because from here we'll be heading off to Le Mans in support of the 24-hour race, as you can see from our 2026 calendar. My name's Dave Richardson, delighted to welcome you along for qualifying. Alongside me is my German colleague, I apologise, Nico Spalek. Good morning.
I don't know what the apology was for. I haven't done anything yet, which is
Yet
probably
is
for the
word.
better.
Yep.
Probably for the better. The weather hasn't done a lot in terms of raining this morning, which is very different to the forecast. We expected torrential rainfall today. Thus far, not so much. It has rained overnight, so certainly the curbs will be wet and slippery, but the track for the moment is dry, which is going to make for an interesting qualifying session.
And that track is here, 4.318 kilometres, 10 turns, 3 left, 7 right. The elevation change from the start-finish straight to turn number 3 is 63.5 metres. We're about an hour from Graz, a couple of hours or so from Vienna, and 2 hours 35 from Salzburg. It's in the mountainous region of Styria, forested state here in southern Austria, known for its wine, its spas, its castles as well. And that's what it looks like from turn 3. And in Copershell qualifying, we will be seeing the likes of Stephen Earle and Paolo Scudieri and Boris Gideon. They're Shell Am drivers because of the black backdrop to their numbers. If it's a yellow backdrop like Ernst Kirchmeier, it means they're a Shell driver. Jean Roux, Henrik Kamstrup, Masaru Yaneda and Shintaro Akatsu will also be taking part, as indeed will Tommy Lindroth, Lisa Clark, Tibor Valent, Charles Chan, Khaled Boudai, who I'm delighted to welcome here. I met him in Qatar earlier this year. He's racing this weekend for Rosso Corsa. Fritz Müller, Ken Sato, Giuseppe Romelli, Sven Schirmer, von Skeltermar, Alwa Meyer, Karl Runefeld, Leon Rienbeek, Eric Chung and Alexei Komarov. It's like a cast of a massive movie, Nico, that are about to take to this track.
The Italian Job, Spielberg edition. Yes, indeed. There is Ernst Kirchmeier. He was here just a few weeks ago as part of the ADAC GT contingent and did a very formidable job, it has to be said. So much more than just a practice and warm-up test session for this very event, which obviously reigns supreme in the world of not GT3 racing, but as we've heard so many times, the Ferrari Challenge is as close as a GT3 car as every Ferrari Challenge car in the history has been.
There is von Skeltermar getting ready. You mentioned there the German racing series that was here in Austria just a couple of weeks ago. Forming part of that grid was someone I just spoke to at breakfast this morning, and that is Felix Herziger, of course, a Ferrari Challenge champion, who is here this weekend as well in a supporting role, it has to be said. But hello, Felix. It was really, really nice to see you, and he was here as part of that ADAC contingent that you talked about as well.
Took a win there, yeah. Very, very good, and just shows how much the Ferrari Challenge is a
absolutely
trajectory for talent galore.
Perhaps with the exception of broadcast, where for some reason we've been overlooked. I didn't mean that. I am in this wonderful position. I'm very glad I am. Ernst Kirchmeier, we saw there. He does a lot of racing. And there is Sven Schirmer's wife. Sven Schirmer, who is not always of the same sunny disposition as his wife, it has to be said, but is about to, in fact, he's the first driver to go.
Well, I think it's fair to say that Sven Schirmer really wears his emotions and he wears them on his sleeve and is not hiding them in voice and picture, so you can always tell how he feels about what he has just achieved or what he's currently doing on the track. There is Dr. Stephen Earle, here for Castle Racing, hailing from North America, Texas. If I'm
From
not
Texas,
mistaken.
indeed. And there is Paolo Scudiero. I was having a chat with Paolo just a few moments ago on my way up to the studio here. Well, I say having a chat with Paolo. He's not one for lots and lots of English language, but we make ourselves understood, to be fair. And Paolo then, he's one of those drivers in Ferrari Challenge who's always there or thereabouts. You do not discount him, and if you do so at your peril.
100%. Talking about Texas, obviously the Ferrari Challenge spans the globe with incarnations in Asia, in Japan and Australasia. We have the Ferrari Challenge in the UK, Silverstone coming up next week. Europe obviously here, as well as North America, and the Ferrari Challenge is actually at the Circuit of the Americas this very weekend, so much later today, Central European time, you will have the Ferrari Challenge North America competing at COTA today and tomorrow, but still nice to see some American competitors racing here.
There is a similarity between that wonderful track that I've been to a few times and here in Spielberg, in that the run to turn number 1 is very uphill. And that's also the case in COTA. You then turn right, as you can see Sven Schirmer do. Of course, if you're in Texas, you turn left. Just minor discrepancy there.
Fairly important when you're in the car, but
well, of course.
Yeah, there is Sven Schirmer. We take a first look at the track layout, and this is one of the pinch points here on the track.
I love this. I love this corner.
You can't miss your braking point here, or it can have all sorts of consequences for yourself and everybody else.
But my goodness, you can make overtakes work there. I've seen some absolutely phenomenal moves there, and I've seen some people make an utter horlicks of it as well.
There is no question. I mean, I think for me always, Spielberg is one of those circuits. If you just look at the circuit map, 2D, is it fair? It doesn't necessarily look like much. You don't immediately recognize where the difficult and tricky parts is. You know, it's like you go up, you go right, and there is a small infield, and then there is a number of straights. But the camber of those turns and the elevation change really makes it a monumental challenge.
It's the Styrian roller coaster.
100%, and it's those, every turn is different, and what looks inauspicious is actually even more tricky.
That's a word, isn't it? Inauspicious. Very good, deft use of His Majesty, the King's English. Well done, sir. I'm impressed with you. Sven Schirmer completes a time that's 1:34.696. It's the first time that we've seen, but that was really only an installation lap. Here he is, looking a lot like Father Christmas. Sven Schirmer in the 175 car. That's a super slow-mo shot of Sven giving it everything through that turn. Right, this is Fritz Müller. Driving for the Gome Motorsport Engstler team. Very much Fritz Müller is always there or thereabouts, apart from that turn. And that is how you can get turn 3 wrong. If you miss your braking point, then you're in all sorts of strife, as you can see, because it really mucks things up for the next sequence of turns, which is turns 4, 5, and 6, where you roll downhill. Here it is, and that is an example of not how you necessarily want to traject your car through turn 3. I think that's fair, isn't it?
I think that's very fair. Yes, I mean, here in qualifying, no other car in front of you can get away with it. In the middle of the pack on lap 1 of the race later on, consequences potentially quite a little bit different.
In other series that I may or may not have been the voice of in the past, I have seen people go up to turn number 3 on the inside lines, the very right-hand side, and basically use anyone that's around them as a brake. And they've made it stick going through turn 3. It's often caused the wrath of race control, but, you know, from an entertainment point of view, I think it's a fantastic turn. It's one of my favourite turns in motor racing. I love it.
In other championships you were mentioning, this is sponsored by the spare parts department. Yes, definitely. Look into the garage of Sven Schirmer, one of his enigmatic driver coaches.
Yes, Andrea Gagliardini. Here's Masaru Yaneda, who I have to say has been jolly impressive in the Ferrari Challenge. Hasn't yet sealed a podium. Perhaps it will be this weekend that it happens. And there is Tibor Valentnico. He's a long-term campaigner in the Ferrari Challenge in the 132 car. He certainly knows how to pedal a Ferrari Challenge car, and he certainly knows his way around this Austrian circuit as well. So Sven Schirmer, the 1:34.696 is the fastest time we've seen so far. As you can see, the track conditions are dry. That's not something we expected to see this morning. We were looking at all the weather predictors for today, and it was fair to say that we didn't expect it to be wet, but it isn't. So the only times have been set by Sven Schirmer, Fritz Müller and Boris Gideon. We've got 23 3/4 minutes remaining in the qualifying session. And I remind you that if the car has a black strip at the top of the windscreen, it's a Shell AM driver. It's a yellow strip like this one, it's a Shell driver. And Sven Schirmer just last year was a chip, and therefore he gets promoted into Shell this year. And Sven Schirmer in that Shell category with the yellow colours. There's his driver coach, Andrea Gagliardini. And Sven Schirmer, thus far this year, has taken 2 podium places and a win. So has taken to the increased competitiveness of the Shell category with the might you would expect of someone who is a Co-Shell champion. So very, very few cars out on the track, which really surprises me. I thought drivers would want to get going fairly early on in the session, but seemingly not so. Perhaps they know something I don't. Here is Yoneda then for Formula Racing, and we run the clock on the car of Masaru Yoneda then, driving for Formula Racing, driver of the 114 car. As I mentioned, he's had top 10 finishes all season long, hasn't yet made it to the podium. It's a question of when, not if. I'm sure of that. It's this weekend. The weekend where he will break that duck and end up on the podium. Only time will tell. As Nico said earlier on, the Ferrari Challenge, the most revered one-make championship around the world, where we race here in Europe, we race in North America, we race in Japan, we race in the UK, we race in Australasia. And from December this year, we'll be racing with the Ferrari Challenge Middle East as well. And delighted to welcome from the Middle East Khaled Daboudai, who's driving for the Rosso Corsa team, who was really, really impressive when I met him for the first time in Qatar earlier on this year, when we had our prologue event for the Ferrari Challenge in the Middle East. And he will be a driver to keep an eye on over the course of this weekend. As I spoke to him earlier this morning. It's his first venture into racing here in Europe, and incidentally, he's making his way out onto track. He was on wets. Okay, so went out for his installation on the wet weather tyres. Here's Alwar Mehr, the Gome Motorsport Engstler driver. Alwar is another really a super driver in the Ferrari Challenge, who hasn't had the rub of the greens so far this season. Let's see if things here in Austria will be better for him this weekend. But certainly enjoying his time in the Ferrari Challenge, and perhaps the results have not been where we or he would expect them to be. Masaru Yoneda then, who is fourth fastest at the moment. He's a Shell AM driver, and he's done 2 personal bests through Sector 1 and Sector 2. And relative to the fastest driver in his category, which is Fritz Müller, he's about 7/10 down on the cumulative lap time, as we dip just under the 20 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. We're live from Spielberg in Austria with Ferrari Challenge Round 3. I mentioned in the introduction to the program that this is the shortest track that we go to on the calendar this season. And from here, as we go through the Faye speed camera, from here we go to, by far and away, the longest track on our calendar. And that is the Circuit de la Sarthe, where we will be supporting the Le Mans 24-hour race with, to the best of my knowledge, the first time in Ferrari Challenge history. We've been to Le Mans in support on a number of occasions, but never before, to my knowledge, have we had 2 support races.
No, 100%. The first one will already be on the Thursday, fairly late in the evening. Then obviously on Friday, traditionally, nothing much happens on the track, if anything, at Le Mans, because the focus is on the Drivers' Parade, which also already traditionally, not only the hypercar and GT drivers from the Corsa Clienti take part, but also the Ferrari Challenge drivers, and they take a huge amount of joy and fun of being part of that event, and I think it's fair to say so do we.
Absolutely, it's like being a rock star. There's tens of thousands of eager racing supporters that line the streets of Le Mans, and to be part of that is something very special. You're absolutely right. Yeah, it's something to very much look forward to. As indeed is the lap time from von Skeltermaier, I suspect. The order is Sven Schirmer, Fritz Muller, Boris Gideon, then it's Masaru Yaneda. Now, Sven Schirmer is the quickest of the Shell drivers ahead of Ken Sato. But I mentioned earlier, Khaled Boudai is one to watch out for. He's 3rd fastest in the Shell category already in qualifying. And yeah, he was really, really impressive in Losail when I was with him earlier on this year. And I think he's going to be really, really impressive here. Charlie Hollings there, the driver coach. You can see on the right-hand side of your picture. Good to see you, Charlie. As von Skeltermaier continues on his way. Charlie working for the Kessel organisation in terms of driver coaching. Charlie himself, a hugely successful driver as von Skeltermaier goes 4th fastest in class. It's 8th fastest overall. And it's a great shot through turn number 3 as we ride on board. And Masaru Yaneda has gone quickest of anyone. He's usurped, I like that word, he's usurped Sven Schirmer with an overall quickest time with a 1:33.086. Now we saw Auer just before he made his way out onto track. Now we can run the telemetry on his car as well. Onto the brake pedal, 4th gear now. Back on the gas once he's rolled through this roller coaster. Left hand now back on the gas again. Quick blast of gas up to very nearly 180 kilometers per hour before having to dip on the brakes once again. Love having that telemetry available to you on the bottom right-hand side of your screen there, so that you can see exactly what's happening inside the 296 Challenge car of Auer, the Gome Motorsport Hengstler driver. Really reinforcing just how much of a roller coaster this place is. Final turn is done, and now full chat flat, heading towards the timing line to break the beam, and Auer then finds himself running P10 overall, which is P6 within class, Nico.
We're about 14 minutes into this qualifying session currently. We generally like to give you reference times from previous visits of the Ferrari Challenge at any given circuit. Not so this time, because the last time we were here in 2023, we were still proudly using the 488 Challenge Evo, so not the 296 Challenge that all the drivers are competing in this year. So not a really a benchmark. The best times from the tests early in the season, when they were in the dry on Thursday, was like 128 high, 129 low, so that might be a reference point, and we're still a few seconds away from that, so we still expect a little bit more, but it's early morning and it has rained overnight, so the track probably is not at its quickest just yet. So it's going to be interesting what times we will find at the end of this session, and then obviously an hour from now when the Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli M drivers take to the track. For the time being, it's Masaru Yaneda on P1. He just finishes the lap. It's not an improvement, but pretty much similar pace of 1:31.359 was his last time around. 10th and a half off the pace he has set before. Lots of personal bests currently across our timing screen, and as you can see, pretty much everybody out on track. The only exception is Eric Chung, who has a rich vein of form already this season. He's biding his time in waiting, but I do suggest and expect for him to come out fairly soon with more than half the session already done.
I think that's fair. I was talking to Corinne, his wife, just ahead of the session, Von Skeltermar goes third fastest. It was second fastest just for a moment, but he's been relegated to third fastest now as Masaru Yaneda and Shintaro Akatsu. Both of them are Shell Am drivers, and they're quicker than anybody else out there at the moment. It's Yaneda, Akatsu, Skeltermar, Ramelli, Gideon, Komarov, and Earl ahead of Khaled Budai, but here we can see Giuseppe Ramelli, who drives, of course, for the Pellin Racing organisation. And I'm struggling to find and remember a season where Giuseppe Ramelli was not part of it, Nico. He's been a regular campaigner in the Ferrari Challenge, and again, he's a driver you can never, ever discount. He's always there or thereabouts, and he's certainly, well, just under a second down on where he would like to be within class at the moment. And continue following the 172 car of Giuseppe Ramelli. And as Alexei Komarov goes third fastest in class, that's fourth fastest overall. Giuseppe Ramelli with personal bests across Sector 1 and Sector 2. However, that lap time will be deleted because he's exceeded the track limits. And that's what's happening in qualifying, Nico. And Giuseppe Ramelli, to be fair, is the only driver that has exceeded track limits and had a lap time deleted thus far.
Yeah, I mean, track limits, especially here at Spielberg, just while Von Skeltermar puts it P1 provisionally.
Slam dunk.
Yeah, and obviously Spielberg here, it offers a lot of runoff area, especially in turns number 1 and then the final 3-4 turns at the end of the lap.
Yes.
As well as right at the top of the hill where Giuseppe Ramelli has just passed. Some of those are really just for the sake of safety. Some really invite the drivers to take liberties and just push and push and push, and when they exceed those wide lines with all 4 wheels in these spots, race control will immediately say, well, you took too much of a slingshot, and that's an unfair advantage, and that lap time is deleted. Later on the race, the consequences are initially more lenient, but then they become significantly more dire, because you get 3 freebies, but the 4th one will give you a 5-second penalty, and every 4th one after that will have escalating penalties. So you really want to stay on the right side of that number later in the race. Giuseppe Ramelli is giving it all, and for now at least it looks like he has done that. This is another spot, this final turn, where you just can't exceed too much.
I think you're right. I think he's kept it within the white lines, and it's a 4th fastest within class. And as we are on the air, we get lots of messages into our studio here, and one such message has come from Mr. Christian Kinch.
Oh.
Nice to hear from you, Christian, and we really miss you, friend, out there on track in your really familiar green and white livery. So hurry back, won't you, Christian Kinch? Good to hear from you, and regards to all of your family. So, Sven Schirmer right now, Nico. We saw a new set of slick tyres going on the Penske Sportwagen Hamburg 296 Challenge car of Sven Schirmer. He's currently 5th fastest within class. He's way down the order. P17 overall. Do not expect that to stay that way. Sven Schirmer, and this really is an installation lap. This is not his quickest lap yet, I'm sure. And he has already vaulted up into P3 overall. But it's P1 within class ahead of Von Skeltermar. 10.5 minutes remaining in this Copa-Shell qualifying. A mix of Copa-Shell and Copa-Shell Am drivers. This is Alexei Komarov, driver of the 199 car. And Alexei Komarov currently 7th fastest. And Alexei Komarov looking for an improvement here. Jean Roux goes quickest with a 1:36.02, and the first driver to give us a sub-1:30 time is Ernst Kirchmayr, the Austrian, with a 1:29.776 for Kessel Racing. So Ernst Kirchmayr, if anyone's going to go well here, it's likely to be this driver. Von Skeltermar, though, chases him to within 6.5 tenths. But the only driver in the 129s is Ernst Kirchmayr, 1:29.776. Von Skeltermar with a 1:34.15. Those two are the top 2 drivers. They are both Shell drivers. Best of the AMs, Boris Gideon, Jean Roux, Alexei Komarov. Great showing from the Scuderia Prague driver, Alexei Komarov. And there you can see Sven Schirmer's wife looking on as we check out Sven Schirmer here. He's been relegated to P9 overall, P4 in class. He's hoping to improve as Sven Schirmer is about to cross the timing line and he's going to go again. So Kirkmeyer, Roux, Skeltermar, Jean Roux just split the top two Shell drivers. Here is Ernst Kirkmeyer, who's going quicker again through Sector 1, but Sector 2 let him down a little bit. Let's see if he can put it all together through Sector 3. And I think he ran wide of the track limits there. We'll see if race control pick it up. So P1 for Ernst Kirkmeyer remains P1. I mean, he took 2/10 out, but let's see if that lap time gets deleted. 1:29.565 is an improvement, but yet, sure enough, his lap time has been deleted because he ran foul of the last but one turn and exceeded those track limits, Nico, and that's where it bites you on the bottom as we look now at the 113 car out there getting around this track, and that is the car of Henrik Kamstrup and Charles Chan right now, the 133 car that we're looking at. There's a car out onto the left-hand side there, Nico.
Yeah, not quite sure. Look, was on that slip road effectively, where you can.
Thought it might have been T-ball fell in, but I only got a fleeting glance.
Yeah, not quite sure either, and the track map is not giving it away, so we'll see.
I was mentioning Henrik Kamstrup. Henrik Kamstrup is another driver that has fallen foul of track limits, Nico, and had a lap time deleted, so he finds himself P7. Charles Chan now goes quickest in the Shalam category. So well done to Charles Chan in that car that you can see centre shot right now. The 133 car. Charles Chan doing a good job. It's only 4 and a bit tenths behind Ernst Kirkmeyer, the quickest driver, who's a Shell driver. Then it's Charles Chan and John Roux. Tibor Valent, Nico, it wasn't his car that we saw. He has now become the second driver to put it into the 129s with a 129.697. So Tibor Valent goes quicker than anybody here at the Spielberg circuit. It's Tibor Valent from Ernst Kirkmeyer as we're watching Palos.
Indeed, and it's by 8 100ths, and if you remember that Ernst Kirchmeier had a quicker time disallowed because of track limits, that's where you can immediately see how much of a difference it can make. Now it's still 6 minutes 45 seconds and whatever is remaining of the lap that you have started with any time remaining, and just on cue Ernst Kirchmeier puts in a purple first sector, and if you're not in that familiar with the color coding, purple means it's the quickest of anybody. Blue or light blue is personal best, and everything else is just regular. So Ernst Kirchmeier pushing, as is Paolo Scudieri. Great camera work here from the drones, giving you an impression of the elevation change, as well as the dynamic and speed of those wonderful 296 Challenge cars.
The Autoropa racing driver, Karl Runefeld, is personal best through Sector 1 and Sector 2, Nico. Fifth fastest in class. This could be an improvement for Karl Runefeld then. So he rounds the final turn and heads towards breaking the timing beam. To the best of my knowledge, kept it within the white lines and breaks the timing beam. And he's just 7/10 down. He is on the fastest time of everyone. Ernst Kirkmeyer on improvement trajectories here. Purple Sector 1, purple Sector 2. He heads to break the timing beam now, and Ernst Kirkmeyer goes back to the top of the chart with a 1:29.323. To the best of my knowledge, I don't see where he put a foot wrong, so that time should stick. 1:29.323 for Ernst Kirkmeyer.
Yeah, and he did it while negotiating traffic, yes. So extra kudos to Ernst Kirchmeier. Now, he knows this track inside out, even though he's raced pretty much across the globe in recent years, but we've seen him being very successful in the Ferrari Challenge, but especially here at Spielberg. I remember one event where the Sunday was actually snowed off, but on Saturday, in torrential rainfall, Ernst Kirchmeier led the race start to finish, and he used to sport that Wolfsburg Hornet-like color scheme, black and yellow. I still have vivid memories of that. There was a pink Hornet a few years later as well, if you remember. But back to Klaus Runefeld, who, as we can see, was overtaken, therefore is not at top speed, and the driver who overtook him, that is Tibor Valent, if I'm not mistaken. He is quick, P2 for the moment. Oh, and there's a little bit of a sideways moment in the braking zone. Back
end of the car, just getting away from managed to root a pole a little bit there, but he controlled it. So Giuseppe Romelli then on an improvement trajectory with Sector 1 and Sector 2 personal best. He's got Alexei Komarov right ahead of him right now. Will that impact the final stages of this lap? I don't think so. I think he'll be able to negotiate the car of Alexei Komarov should he need to. He might even get a little bit of a draft off the back of the Alexei Komarov car as he heads towards the timing beam. Breaks it as he goes through the Fourier speed cam. It's Ernst Kirchmeier, Tibor Valint. And we've got a yellow flag at turn 3. Someone's gone off at turn 3. Which is a favourite place for going off. If you're going to choose to go off somewhere, then that's possibly where you will do it. And we can see here Sven Schirmer being motivated by his driver coach as we split the screen. As Andrea Gagliardini advises Sven Schirmer where to put his foot down. We've only got 3 minutes of this session remaining. And if I can be honest with you, Nico, and if I can't be honest with you, I don't know who I can be honest with. Sven Schirmer is not where I expected to see him.
No, currently not, and he is pushing. Another driver who's definitely not where we expect him is Eric Chung in P22, and he hasn't set a meaningful lap time at all.
Sven improves.
And he's just done that. Sven Schirmer improved to P4, and Eric Chung has improved to P5 in class, which is 7th overall. So when that yellow came out, and sometimes the yellow is the precursor of a red flag at a session interruption in qualifying, that would have been terrible news for the likes of Eric Chung, who still needed that lap time. So he, who was just extremely out of position, has at least somewhat rectified that.
Yes.
So good news for the Formula Racing driver Eric Chung, and he is pushing again. We can see that from our timing screen that he's going quick again. There is Alois Meyer, local driver, the Austrian, rounding the final turn, making sure that at least 2 wheels stay within the white lines, and I think he kept all 4 within that.
I agree.
He's currently in P21 overall, and as it looks...
Stays there.
Yeah, hasn't improved just yet. Sven Schirmer is still searching for that front row start, and anything but P1 would be a letdown, I guess, in his book, but...
Oh, absolutely. He's a born winner, isn't he? And anything other than, as you say, P1, he gets the raving ump. And he's not happy about it. You, I know, are across the weather predictions, Nico. At the moment, you can see that the track is dry, even though it's been nominated as being a wet track, because there are plenty of patches where if you ran off the track, it would be still considered very, very wet. The forecast is actually more favourable than not, isn't it?
It has certainly improved. It doesn't mean that there is not going to be any rain over the day, but the almost incessant rainfall that was predicted for today certainly is not what the forecast calls for at this stage.
Right.
Eric Chung with a small further improvement, but it hasn't elevated him further up the order. Sven Schirmer, pretty much the same story again. Was quicker than his previous best time, but it only edged him a little bit closer to this driver, von Skeltemer, who is in P3.
Kirchmeier has parked the car in the pit lane, feels he's done enough. Charles Chan does the same in terms of the Shell drivers. So we keep an eye on those that are improving. Tibor Valint was having a go, but has had a lap time deleted. So too has Eric Chung. There is a yellow flag at turn 1. And there is Ernst Kirchmeier as we split the screen, walking away. As far as he's concerned, as we've got a red flag now. And that's the reason why. And that is the 103 car, if I'm not mistaken, of Boris Gideon. As I try to put my glasses on very quickly, it's an odd... Well, there you go. It's just... That was quite an impact. And the reason for that, Nico, is... And he could see, or you can see from that, that he just dipped a wheel offline, and when it has been raining, and it has been raining here, once you lose the grip by the back end of the car being just off of the optimum line, you are but a passenger. There was nothing Boris Gideon could do about that, and you could see that as the car got onto the grass, which is sodden with water, you know, it almost looks like it's accelerating, doesn't it?
Yes, 100%. It sometimes you look at the track and how the safety measures are placed around the track, and you think, well, why would you put fences and all of that and tire barriers on the inside of the track. If you run wide, you run on the outside. But it's exactly that. You try to control it, keep it on the track, and then the car is so light at the exit of the turn. And if there is just that smidget of an extra rotational input into the car, you just lose it, and you can't control it with your best efforts.
There he is, Boris is out of the car. He's perfectly okay. The integral safety of the 296 Challenge car is superb. But I have to say, Nico, that made contact with those barriers at quite a tilt, and I just wonder whether that might impact Boris's ability to take to the track. I mean, the team will work really, really hard. Have no doubt of that. Boris hadn't done a bad job in qualifying. He was P3 within class. But the Riller and Schnauk team have got some work to do, I would have suggested. But they can work miracles, and oftentimes do. Ernst Kirchmeier then, make no mistake, a 1:29.323. At the end of the day, in that qualifying session, there was only 3 drivers into the 29s. And they were Ernst Kirchmeier, Thibaut Valent, and Fons Skeltermar, all Shell drivers. Best of the AM drivers, Charles Chan, Jean Roux, and Boris Gideon, the cause, if you like, of the red flag and the session not restarting because there was literally just seconds on the clock remaining. There is Boris speaking to one of the marshals and just explaining what happens, I'm sure, you know. And yeah, really sorry to see that. Boris, we've had conversations with on more than one occasion at racetracks and also in airport lounges, Nico, as we've all been travelling back at the same time. And here's confirmation of then who did what in that qualifying session with the backdrop of the Styrian Mountains for you to enjoy looking down from turn 3. Ernst Kirchmeier, Thibaut Valent, Fons Skeltermar and Sven Schirmer, the top Shell drivers. The best Shell AM driver, Charles Chan and Jean Roux, they were ahead of Eric Chung and Karl Runefeld. And then, ironically, it would be in P9 overall, Boris Gideon, the driver that we saw make contact with the barriers just a few moments ago, ahead of Paolo Scudieri, Masaru Yaneda, Alexei Komarov, Shintaro Akatsu, Henrik Kamstrup, and Fritz Muller. And they were ahead of Giuseppe Romelli, Stephen Earle, Leon Rinbeek, Tommy Lindroth, Ken Sato, Alwan Mer, and Khaled Budai. A warm welcome to Khaled from the Middle East, and Lisa Clark then. P9, thank you so much for watching qualifying. Bye-bye for now.
senti, ieri ne so, passeggiata sulla Sabrina, e praticamente gli ho proposto lo stesso retiro. E lei dopo mi ha risposto che così onestamente ci pensavo e volevo proportelo anch'io quel stesso volo di Sandro. E niente, praticamente con i voli orari ci sono, per me vanno bene, sia l'andata che il ritorno. Più che altro, siccome stavo vedendo, facciamo due cambi, uno a Zurigo, se non sbaglio, un altro a Hong Kong, e i cambi, insomma, non so se tu sai se tante volte Sabrina ti ha dato gli orari praticamente dei cambi, quanto dobbiamo sostare lì negli aeroporti, tutto qua. E poi per adesso è indifferente. Io penso che poi a Hong Kong ci dovremmo incontrare anche con gli altri che vengono da Milano, se non sbaglio. Magari se li sai, così a livello informativo, come li giri. Grazie. Comunque magari mi faccio fare un treno abbastanza, insomma, abbastanza largo per Firenze, in modo tale che se ci incontriamo lì a Santa Marinella, che viene da Pisa, e ci incontriamo lì e poi andiamo all'aeroporto.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Spielberg circuit here in Austria. It's round 3 of the Ferrari Challenge in Europe. We're about to get qualifying underway for our Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers. 30 minutes on the clock for them to set the best lap time that they can during that 30 minutes. To therefore secure a perfect grid position. Here is the track then. 4.318 track of the season before we head to the longest track of the season, as we have 2 support races at the Le Mans 24-hour event. So the Circuit de la Sarthe is where we will be heading next. And we're being told we're about a couple of minutes away from the qualifying session getting underway. The reason for the delay, we had an off at the tail end of our Copichelle and Copichelle AM qualifying session, and some barrier repairs have had to be facilitated. Track temperature is 13 degrees and the air temperature is 7 degrees at the moment, but critically it is absolutely bone dry thus far. So as I mentioned, 4.318 kilometers, 10 turns, 3 left, 7 right. The elevation changes from the start finish straight up to turn 3 is a huge 63.5 meters. We are about 2 hours 35 minutes from Salzburg, a couple of hours from Vienna, an hour or so from Graz. In the Styrian mountainous forested state in southern Austria, known for its wines, spas and castles. There you have it. We have Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers. Sergio Paolo and Max Mugelli are both Pirelli drivers. You can see that for the red colour bars across their numbers. Then Danilo Del Favro, Herbert Geis, Matt Rosner, Anders Bidstrup, Michael Verhagen. Lucas Azarto becomes a Pirelli driver. He was racing in Copichelle AM just a few weeks ago. Jacob Bidstrup, Nobuhiro Imada, Fernando Monnier, Giacomo Ronaldo, and a warm welcome back to Hendrik Viol, who was our Pirelli AM champion. Hendrik Viol back racing again in the Ferrari Challenge, which is very, very nice to see as we look at the number 3 car of Max Mugelli. Max's partner, Tina, to the right-hand side of your picture, as you can see. And joining me in comms for qualifying is Nico. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a very nice list of things that are very remarkable of this area of Austria. Motorsport certainly one of them. Naturally, this circuit not only hosting the Ferrari Challenge, but also the Austrian Grand Prix, two-wheelers, lots of motorsport. I want to say year-round. Obviously, in winter it's a little bit more tricky, but as Nobuhiro Imada is still biding his time and waiting for the things to come towards him. As we get the information that the start of the session is pushed back another minute from now, so 10:12, but that's not very far. You said there was an incident at the end of the Copichelle session, which meant the drivers had to keep their attention up and build towards the ever-changing target of this session. But as you can see, I think Michael Verhagen, who's already had a very, very good start to the championship this year. The drivers are more building towards the second half of this qualifying session, it would appear, as Danilo Del Favro is talking to a very good friend of ours, Oliver Fendel, who, when he's not down in the pit lane, is commentating for the Ferrari Challenge in Germany, for the time being, doing reconnaissance.
You made mention of the fact that Michael Verhagen has had a pretty solid start to the season. It could not have been any solider, in my opinion. 4 wins. 4 wins out of 4 race starts for Michael Verhagen. Very much looking good for the season ahead. Is Michael Verhagen is certainly started it very well. Fernando Monnier then for Quadis Gallery Goat Racing out there inside his 296 Challenge car. Warm welcome to Fernando, joining us in the Ferrari Challenge, and a very distinctive looking car it is too. The 74 car just warming up. Everything is heading up towards turn number 3. So we have 5 Pirelli drivers. They have all got the red strip across the top of the windscreen, as you can see from Fernando's car there. If it's a white strip like this one across the number 29 car of Anders Bidstrup, it means they are a Pirelli AM driver. Anders Bidstrup and Jacob Bidstrup, both driving for the Formula Racing organisation, and both in the Shell Am Pirelli Am category. And there is the returning number 92 car, Hendrik Viol, for Scuderia Prague Racing. Delighted to see Hendrik back out on track again. His was certainly a championship winning car in that livery, and a very distinctive livery as well. Of that there is no doubt. Sergio Paula then, 3 wins and a P2 for Sergio Paula in Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli this season. So an almost perfect start for the Ineco Reparto Corsa Ram driver Sergio Paula. Hails from Spain, where of course we will be heading right at the end of the season for our season-ending finale event, which is being held this year at the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona. This is Jacob Bidstrup then, brother to Anders, also driving for the Formula Racing team. The only car out there on track at the moment, Fernando Monja. And we ride on board. Still going through a warm-up phase, you can see, using the accelerator and the brakes, bringing everything up to temperature. The thing is, by being quite aggressive on the brakes, what happens is that means that the heat generated through the brakes is it permeates out through the rims onto the tyres, and brings those tyres up to temperature as well. So there's quite some science in terms of what these drivers do from a warm-up point of view. And almost an entire lap of doing, and then back into the pit lane again. Riding on board with Fernando. You can see the rear view screen mounted on the dashboard. And the reason the drivers in the 296 Challenge cars have a rear-view screen rather than a rear-view mirror is because there's no place to put a rear-view mirror, because there's a big safety bulkhead behind the drivers which prevents that from happening. And therefore, they all prefer having the cameras and screen, which gives them a much more expansive rearward view, apparently, Nico.
Yes, indeed, and we've seen that in, not necessarily in this shot, but we've seen that the drivers also get information on the track status, so that means whether it's a yellow flag, a green flag, red flag, they also get that projected onto the screen, which just adds another level of safety, because it will alert the drivers immediately, even when they're focused on, focused in a battle and don't necessarily have the eyes peeled on the flags of the race marshals along the track. They'll immediately pick up on anything that would require their attention to slow down. In the Scuderia Praha garage, there is Hendrik Viol. We already saw his car. We all now see the protagonist.
And we see Claudia back as well, Hendrik's partner, who I have to say, we saw so many emotive shots of her as Hendrik went towards winning the championship. And it's always nice to share the emotions of those around the drivers as well, and that's something that we certainly did as Hendrik headed towards the Pirelli championship.
One past this.
Matt Rosner.
Then we have to go now. It's only 25 minutes left.
Matt Rosner, then we have to go, he says. We only have 25 minutes left. There is the Hendrik Viol championship winning car, Nico. Hendrik is driving for the Scuderia Prague team, who over the years have been the architects of much success in the Ferrari Challenge, and not only in the Ferrari Challenge, but the relationship they have with Ferrari around various racing categories. And there's Herbert Guys.
Very enigmatic character, Herbert Guys is, and wears the clown with pride, I think it's fair to say.
Driving for Maranello Motors Pro Racing, of course, the Pro Racing standing for Harold Prochik.
Maranello Motors based in Cologne.
Yes.
Very much a local affinity from...
Very much your dealership, Nico.
Absolutely. Don't think that I own it, but it's the closest to my home anyway. And
it's the one where he gets his scooter serviced, everybody.
Absolutely. Had a nice time with Herbert, traveling back from Mugello, where he took his podium positions with quite a bit of pride, it has to be said, and rightfully so. He's second in the championship.
He's a great driver and a huge character as well. And in fact, the garage is always an enjoyable garage to be in around. Yeah, great people.
his wingman, Otto Blank, who was a part of that company, he's at the Nürburgring this weekend,
Yes.
Racing in the 24 hours.
Along with Björn Grossman.
And Luke Ludwig, who was very much coaching last time around. So missing a few people who are active in other championships and events. But Herbert Guy is certainly here, and he will look to continue his rich vein of form in this quali session and later in the race, of course.
That is the back end of Max Mugelli's car. Max Mugelli then, the CDP Eureka driver who, if memory serves me correctly, in the second race at Mugello took the race win in Trofeo Pirelli, and it was a very, very enjoyable win for Max Mugelli to take as well. So they're a small team, the Max Mugelli team, and therefore it means a lot, the success they have, as we watch Giacomo Ronaldo now in the number 75 car. Now, Giacomo, who took his first podium in the second race at Mugello when we were out there in the track in Tuscany just a couple of weeks ago, or a few weeks ago to be fair. So we've got 22.5 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. On behalf of Nico and myself, let me formally say welcome. Glad you're there, glad you're watching this qualifying session from the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli, the mix of Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers. I remind you, the Pirelli drivers with the red strip across the top of the windscreen, and the AM drivers with the white strip across the top of the windscreen. Scuderia Graf for Matt Rosner then, as he heads now up towards turn number 3. Now, this is 64, as near as makes no difference, meters higher than the bottom of the start-finish straight. And boy, it's a brilliant turn, because it's a turn that, if you get it right, it is the most satisfying. And if you get it wrong, it gives us a lot to talk about, if I'm honest with you. And that's why we love it. And there then starts this roller coaster, if you will, through the Styrian Mountains, through turns 4, where we are right now, then 5 and 6. 5 and 6 are taken at quite some pace, because you're going downhill as well. And yeah, you continue the gradient drop, and you try and hold on to the car here. It sounds like I know what I'm talking about. Having been around here on a bicycle, I can tell you it's much the similar experience, where you're trying to hold on to it to stop it getting away from you. I'm jesting, of course, but it is. I mean, it's a phenomenal circuit. I love this Spielberg circuit for everything that it rewards us with in terms of its. It might be a short track, only 4.3 kilometers, but boy, every single turn, in my opinion, is one worth taking on board. As we look at somebody who's been promoted, Nico, and that's Lucas Azzato, who last time around was racing in the Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell category, Copa Shell AM, in fact. And this is what happens. What you know, dependent upon the results that you have, the powers that be within the higher echelons of management and race control in Ferrari take a look at a driver's ability and talent and what they've done, and they can get moved within categories, can't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's rare to get that much of a boost, but Azzato clearly showed his talent and his prowess, and I mean, we in GT3 case racing, we very frequently talk about BOP and balance of performance and categorizing cars and categorizing drivers. Sometimes is not the most exact science, and there are different elements and factors, and only when you see them matched up against one another, you really see where they belong.
He had taken 4 very dominant wins in Shell AM, no question. And by dint of the fact that, you know, Lucas Azzato has moved up to the Pirelli class, having 40 Shell and Pirelli AM, gives you some indication of just what a talent Lucas Azzato is.
Indeed.
And I think he'll take it to the front runners in Pirelli, have no doubt, in my opinion. What is my opinion worth? Naff all, honestly, but I do think he will be very, very successful. Giacomo Ronaldo is also being very successful, because he's going to give us the first meaningful time up on the board, with Sector 1 and Sector 2s being quicker than anyone. Well, it would be, because we've only really had two times from any drivers out there. But Giacomo Ronaldo for Rosso Corsa then will round the final turn now and head towards breaking the timing beam. We had times in the 129s in the Shell qualifying, and Giacomo Ronaldo posts his first sort of meaningful time with a 1:39.45 as Danilo Del Favaro then puts the steering wheel onto the splines of the steering column inside his Penske Sportwagen Hamburg Ferrari Challenge 296 car. The full safety harness going on right now as we continue to watch the number 74 car of Fernando Monja, who went through that warm-up routine. You can see him doing it again now, weaving from side to side, just generating temperature wherever he can. And I'm tempted to say that the final 18 minutes of this qualifying session are going to be fraught with activity, Nico.
No doubt, because in all honesty, the first 12 minutes of this session have not been that. And as you can see from this onboard shot, still some weaving going on, which is very good long term. It's not the quickest way around, so that would be an indication that this lap, and again you can see the weaving from Fernando. He is not yet on a quick lap. We still throw the telemetry, and even at weaving, we exceed the 220 kilometers per hour. This is the onboard shot of that turn that Dave has already so elegantly explained the beauty of, and it's fair to say that this was not the most dramatic braking that we get in the race and on a pole lap, but still a great impression of how you climb and then you take that apex on the inside and then you slowly get onto that top straight, which is not really a straight, but as good as. There was Sergio Paulet, in front of him there were other cars, and that meant that any intention he might have had to push on that lap certainly went away. It's not about track position. There is Herbert, guys. The all-black car with the ornament, and he too still in waving motion coming across the line. We'll probably put the time on screen, but it's not going to be meaningful for him. Everybody's leaving it rather late, and obviously, even though the sun is not out, the track will slowly evolve and get a little bit warmer and a little bit quicker. We have no forecast of rain, certainly for the remainder of this session, so the drivers will feel at ease with that strategy, because they don't fear any precipitation, which would clearly slow the track down.
And in my opinion, and it is only an opinion, the reason there are 8 drivers that are holding back from going out at the moment is because every lap that Giacomo Ronaldo and Max Mugelli and Fernando Monja and Sergio Paulet do out there on track, they're laying just a tiny amount of Pirelli rubber down on that track, which will be to the advantage of those drivers that run later in the session. Where it becomes perhaps a little bit of a disadvantage is that it will become busier. And even though there are not, the categories are not immensely populated with 30, 40 drivers, finding track space can still be something of a challenge. And all of a sudden, as you point out, nearly everyone listening to what we're saying and is busting to get out of the pit lane.
Absolutely. When you started that sentence, there were 6 drivers still in the pit lane. When you finished that sentence, all 6 of them had emerged, so all of them now are on their out lap, and all of a sudden that means the track is going to be a lot busier, and drivers being on different parts of their evolution and strategy means some are still very much installing, others will be at the point where they want to push, and that means the differences in speed and positioning the car on the track will become fairly obvious. So that's going to make for a very interesting part of this qualifying session over the next few minutes. Giacomo Ronaldo has put it into the 129s, and he's still pushing.
As we were riding on board with Giacomo Ronaldo there, it was very interesting to see from that onboard shot how difficult turn 1 is, so named now, of course, after one of the most famous racing drivers, one Mr. Niki Lauda, who we sadly miss so much. We saw in the Shell session earlier on, Nico, where you just put one wheel a little bit too far into the runoff area and that spits the back end of the car out and propels you across the track. And, that's where you've got to try and be millimetrically perfect through both turn 1 and turn 3. They are the critical turns, in my opinion, on this circuit.
Yes, there was Daniel Del Favre, and he was just managing that very turn you were talking about.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, the drivers, obviously there is a lot of runoff area through there, but if you exceed the track limits there, that means your lap doesn't count in qualifying, so you definitely want to stay inside that white line, at least with 2 wheels, and that was exactly what Boris Gideon tried in the Copper Shell earlier,
Yes.
and just put that margin of too much opposite log.
And it was probably centimetres, wasn't it?
Indeed, and certainly the curbs were still a little bit wetter than the track itself, holding a little bit more moisture, and that doesn't help with the slick tires.
And once you're on the grass, as we saw, you know, you are but a passenger and you're accelerating almost.
Indeed, indeed, especially when the grass is wet as well. That certainly doesn't help slowing you down. Now, as you can see from this shot, there are quite a few sections where the gravel beds are quite deep and quite long, but there are other parts where you have lots of painted lines, and in some instances on the inside, the barriers are quite close to the track. So we sometimes talk about old school tracks and very modern tracks, the Hermann Tilke school of track construction and architecture.
Which doesn't find favour with everyone.
It's true. I somehow feel like you can tell that Spielberg has its roots very much in the traditional circuit architecture, but it does have parts which have been modernized quite significantly. So it's kind of it's a little bit of both in some ways.
I agree. And just as you were describing that so eloquently and so articulating with such passion, it was interesting to see also with such passion Danilo Del Favre holding out onto the car going through turn 1. The order is Fernando Monja and Max Mugelli, who are the two quickest drivers, and they're both Pirelli drivers. The best of the AM drivers is Giacomo Ronaldo. Here is Max Mugelli then, who's done a personal best through Sector 2, but his Sector 1 was not quite where he would like it to be. So this may not be an improvement through Max Mugelli's time, who is already second fastest. We've only got just under 11.5 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. We're live from the Spielberg circuit here, season 34 of Ferrari Challenge Europe for 2026. And Max Mugelli then, driver of the number 3 car, one of the nicest guys you could meet in the paddock. In fact, we are so blessed with a paddock full of fantastic people, fantastic drivers, wonderful characters, who, if you join us at any of our events, and we would urge you to do that, you would be made to feel most welcome, and there are no barriers to access in terms of drivers would love to talk to you and say hello, and you know, it's a really refreshing paddock from that point of view, Nico.
Oh, absolutely, and we would so love to welcome you. I mean, Le Mans next up is certainly one. If you're anywhere close to Spielberg, and you still have today and tomorrow, so please hop in whatever vehicle of choice you can and come here. But there is still Budapest, which is a great city and a very modern track nowadays,
Yes.
which will give you great access. It's the Ferrari Racing Days, which means there is much more than just the Ferrari Challenge. As if the Ferrari Challenge wasn't enough of a draw, but there is even more going on. I hear that the south of Portugal is quite nice in summer, so
yeah, that's all right, isn't it? Yeah, we'll put up with that. And then, of course, we've got a huge festival going on in November in the Circuit de Catalunya, Nico, which will be home to Finale Mondiale event. Lots going on, and check it all out at races.ferrari.com, of course. Fernando Monja, Sergio Paulo, P1, P2, Hendrik Viol, on his return to racing, has gone 3rd fastest, Nico. In fact, he's the final of the trio of drivers that have put it into the 1:28. So we're seeing times that are quicker than we saw in the Copper Shell qualifying earlier on. Quelle surprise, I'm tempted to say, because, of course, a bit more rubber has gone down. Now, this is Herbert Guys for Maranello Motors Pro Racing. Personal best through Sector 1. And it needs to be, because Herbert Guys is, at the moment, 4th fastest within his class. We would potentially expect to see Herbert a little bit further up the order than that. So here is Herbert Guys then. Sergio Paulo is on a quick trajectory as well. He's gone quicker than anybody through Sector 1. Herbert Guys then wearing the tears of a clown with pride, as Nico so rightly said, across that car. And he will give you the full meaning of the clown symbol on the side of the guy's car. I'm sure in due course it's all to do with a thing in Cologne called Carnival, which is the most extraordinary, bonkers thing that I've ever come across. My first ever trips to Cologne collided in full effect with that extraordinary event. Fernando Monnier, Sergio Paulet get back on script, Dave. Anders Bedstrup is quickest of the AM drivers, Nico, ahead of Michael Verhagen. Here's Sergio Paulet then. 3 wins out of 4 race starts for Sergio Paulet, and this replay, freeze frame. And Danilo Del Favro, at the moment the machine needs a kick-in, I would have suggested in the EBS. Right, here's Danilo Del Favro then, who replicates his colour scheme with his overalls and stuff as well. And he's done personal bests in Sector 1 and Sector 3, and Danilo Del Favro is 6th fastest in our our Pirelli AM drivers. Hendrik Viol for Scuderia Prague Racing.
Great colour scheme.
Oh, it is a great colour scheme. And great to see Hendrik back racing once again. Really missed Hendrik. And he, of course, taking the Trofeo Pirelli AM Championship last year, having come so close the year before, Nico. Last year was his year.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you could see through that middle section of the track, he's taking no prisoners. He's really pushing, and he's always on the edge, and ran a little bit wide. I was just about to say, he's flirting with track limits time and time again. I'm not sure if that was... Sorry, Hendrik. So sorry.
You are the commentator's curse. Hendrik was on for a good lap time. Hendrik, it was completely horlicked by my mate alongside me, who made sure that the attention. There's Claudia, Hendrik's partner. I'll have a word with her and just say it was all down to my buddy here.
Yeah.
It was a slam dunk, Nico. I'm sorry. It was nothing to do with you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But you could tell how much he's pushing, and even though by not being a full season entry this year, he doesn't necessarily have the overall championship aspirations that he had last year.
But he's still a racing driver. He still wants to win everything that he can.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Nobuhiro Yamada, he had a great showing already, very visible this season. Also love the color scheme. It's not as flamboyant maybe as that of Herbert Geis, but works very well. And he has really put his talent on full display already this season.
And Nobuhiro, as we look inside the garage of Nobuhiro Yamada, he does a lot of racing, Nico, including single-seaters. Nobuhiro Yamada knows how to pedal a car. Here is Danilo Del Favro then, who has improved to 3rd fastest within class. We run the telemetry of Danilo Del Favro. As you can see, 2nd gear right now, and then back on the gas again up through the 3rd gear, 4th gear right now, pulling very nearly 200 kilometers per hour, and we reach that as we're into the 5th gear, back on the brake again. And this roller coaster of the Spielberg circuit here, Danilo through the rumble strips there. You can almost feel those through that wonderful onboard camera shot that we were able to bring you of Danilo Del Favro trying to improve. He certainly improved through the 2nd sector. It was a personal best, but I'm not sure whether all the sectors combined is going to show us an improvement for Danilo Del Favro across the entirety of the lap. Let's take a look now as he heads towards breaking the timing beam. Now, Danilo Del Favro, he was 3rd fastest in class and remains so. So it is Fernando Monnier, Sergio Paulet and Hendrik Viol. Anders Bidstrup is the quickest of the AM drivers ahead of Michael Verhagen. Michael will not be happy about that. He will want to be P1. Super slow-mos. Racing driver.
Coming into pit lane, and there for a moment with 4 minutes remaining.
Fernando feels he's done enough, Nico.
Yeah, he feels he's done enough, and I think with P1 he's certainly done so for the time being. Sergio Paulet's still pushing, and through 2 sectors on the current lap he's only a few 1,000ths off the pace, but
the drivers they run straight to the timing screen. There's Ivo Horn to the left-hand side of your picture, head of Scuderia Prague Racing. Claudia, who is Hendrik Viol's partner, watching on, and they've both, of course, taken a look at Hendrik Viol, who is running in P3 as Sergio Paula goes with this. Fernando Monja jumped out of the car, and almost as soon as he jumped out of the car, Sergio Paula set a time which was better than Fernando Monja. So what does that mean for Fernando Monja? It means it's, at the moment, a P2 start. It also means that potentially he loses that point for pole position, Nico.
well, I think given that we're only 3 minutes away, he won't get back into the car.
No chance.
And, I mean, the differences are marginal. He was 3 100ths quicker before, and now is 4 100ths slower than Sergio Paulet. So it's that little what makes the difference between P1 and P2 for the time being. But as we've said so many times before, there is a trade-off between putting more laps and more strain on your Pirelli P0s or preserving more rubber. And indeed, Sergio Paulet has done 10 laps, Fernando Monja has done 7, so there's a small advantage.
Yes, but it is an advantage.
There is Daniel Del Favero, 3rd in class, which is 7th overall. For the time being, Anders Bidstrup is leading the MC. Also is in the pit lane. Michael Verhagen, who we have touted his exploits of the season thus far, is the sandwich between the two of them. P6 overall. And Daniel Del Favero track limit indication on graphics means that this lap is not going to be an improvement. Did I tickle Michael Verhagen? First sector is a purple one, better than anybody. So
Michael just, he's one of those drivers, Nico, who I find fascinating to watch, as I do Danilo Del Favero as well. And this is where the Penske Sportwagen Hamburg driver did exceed those limits.
Barely.
It is, I mean, it's turn 9. It is one of the favoured places, isn't it? If you're gonna get a slingshot, that's one of the places to do it. Back to what I was saying about Michael Verhagen, Nico. He just quietly goes about his business, unassuming, but look at this. Absolutely like a viper when he needs to be as he crosses the timing line now, and he goes P1 within class. Michael Verhagen then relegates Anders Bidstrup, Nico, to P2. Now, so for Michael Verhagen, bearing in mind, Nico, he comes into this round of the Ferrari Challenge having taken 4 wins on the bounce. He now gains another point, potentially, for pole position again. And come the end of the season, what do points make? Prizes.
Absolutely. We talked about Lucas Azato, who, as we said, was elevated quite a few positions and categories. He's currently down in P12, but he's currently pushing with a personal best, which is only 1/10 of the pace set by Sergio Paulet. So expect some improvement in the dying stages of this session. Max Mugelli stays in P4 in class, which is 6th overall, but it will be interesting to see what Lucas Azato can do on his premiere here in the Pirelli class.
And forgive me saying this, Nico, I think Lucas Azato, whoa, great hold on there by Michael Verhagen. Having watched Lucas Azato and his success in Copa-Chelan, Lucas Azato, in my opinion, is one of those drivers that's a better racer than qualifying. And you get this with drivers, don't you? Some drivers can qualify really well over the single lap, but they struggle perhaps a little bit more in the race. And there are other drivers that can really turn it on. And I just think Lucas Azato has proven his prowess in the race. So,
yeah, and unfortunately he's proven exactly what you just said, because he picked up a track limit violation on the final sector on...
Now there, forgive me interrupting you, is the Reparto Corsa Ram sort of driver advisor for this weekend with Sergio Paula, who was very successful last year, Felix Herziger, who was here driving in a GT series, and a race winner, I believe, here just a few weeks ago. So Felix Herziger has gone off to pursue other Ferrari driving, but Felix Herziger won the championship last year, and great to see him back again. I spoke to him earlier on as the session is over, Nico. Anyone that's still on a lap, of course, the lap can still count. And Nobuhiro Imada is one of those that is looking for an improvement. Personal best through Sector 1, personal best through Sector 2. He's currently P5 in class. This could be Nobuhiro Imada moving himself up the order as we see him through the final turn right now, heading towards breaking the timing beam. Nobuhiro Imada for Formula Racing stays P5. I kind of built that a bit, but...
And he did improve in terms of time, but it was just 5/100ths of the Max Mugelli time, which would have elevated him to row 3 overall. He stays row 4 on the inside, P7, but it's...
I tried.
Well, it's P3 in class anyway.
Yeah.
So fair.
Actually, that's changed. Yes.
Fair play.
Yeah, well done, Nobuhiro.
Danilo Del Favaro just edged to P4 in class. There is Anders Bidstrup, who was edged by Michael Verhagen, but I think he can feel pretty satisfied with that performance.
Well, they're going to be effectively on what is their class front row. That won't be the case because, of course, all the drivers line up on the grid, irrespective of their category, because it's all mixed together. But you can see the discussions going on there. There is Sergio Paolo with his pole position award, Nico.
Didn't come easy today.
No, it didn't.
Less than half a tenth to the good of Fernando Monte. So great to see the competition. Well done to Sergio Paolo. Well done to Fernando Monte. Well done to Hendrik Viol, Michael Verhagen, Anders Bidstrup, Max Mugelli, Nobuhiro Imada, Danilo Del Favaro, Giacomo Rinaldo. Herbert Geis, you mentioned, not quite the pace he had the last few ones.
Let's see what he does in the race. Let's get confirmation then of the result then for our Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am qualifying. Sergio Paolo, Fernando Monye, Hendrik Viol, top 3 Pirelli drivers. Michael Verhagen, the best of the Ams, ahead of Anders Bidstrup and Nobuhiro Imada. Splitting those, Max Mugelli. Then it was Danilo Del Favaro ahead of Giacomo Rinaldo. Herbert Geis out of position. Lucas Azato, arguably, maybe he's out of position too. And Matt Rosner complete the results by Faye for our Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am qualifying. Please make sure you join us for the races. They're going to be awesome. From Nico and myself for the moment, bye-bye.